We're live.
No, Hangtown was absolutely awesome. And Ferrandis, such tenacity. He got a horrible start in the second moto. Roxon went down. I think he broke his ankle. But they were way at the back. And by the time the moto was on, maybe 2 laps to go, Ferrandis was in 4th or 5th place, came all the way back and got the overall. He did win the first moto, but he took such a bad spill. Nobody thought he'd catch up. So it looked like Tomac was going to maybe take the overall, maybe even Webb. But he came back, and it was really great, too, because I don't know if you saw it on Peacock. Brad Lackey got to give him the trophy. Not just the trophy from Hangtown, but, the trophy from Hangtown, and, of course, his championship trophy, too, which was a real nice touch. Yeah, Justin Cooper was awesome, too. Yeah. Yeah, I am going to Terry Good's event for the weekend, October 1st through the 4th. Mm-hmm. All 4. Okay.
We're live.
This is Joe Abata. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. We're on the starting line, sponsored by Motion Pro. I'm going to tell you what's coming up on tonight's show. And the next time, try this segment. We'll talk about taps and chasers. What's the difference? In the Moto Showcase, a very special bike brought to you by Mark Hildebrand. It's a video. You're going to want to watch this if you're sending in bikes for the Moto Showcase. Here's the problem. We take a look at several different questions that you sent in over the past week. Got some really good ones tonight. What's it worth? 73 Suzuki TM400, one of everyone's favorites. The Expansion Chamber, a great video tonight from Oscar Gayton. Thank you for watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. Thank you, Jordan, Chelsea, and Susie for helping me put the show together. And thank you, the viewers at home, who join us every week. Don't forget to keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, please comment Motion Pro. We will have a random shared giveaway winner that we will announce on Thursday, tomorrow, on the show. The random shared giveaway winner is going to get this great sticker sheet, compliments of Vinco. So don't forget, keep sharing the show. The YouTube channel is going great, but we could always use more help. I'd appreciate it if you shared it with your friends and maybe got some people to subscribe. You can see all the videos there from our past shows and, of course, all the interviews as well. When you do subscribe, you'll get an alert just like this. It tells you when we're live on the air, so you won't catch 1 minute of Vintage Motocross, or won't miss 1 minute of Vintage Motocross Q&A. How are the pros watching the show? How are the experts doing it? They're sitting back on their couch. They're commenting from their phone while they watch the show on their HD screen TV. It's the best way to watch the show. You can enjoy it on the big screen, comment from your phone, and enjoy all the segments of Vintage Motocross Q&A. Don't forget to keep sending in those questions and your Moto Showcase bikes. We got a great one that Mark Hildebrand, I mentioned just a few minutes ago, has sent in to us, and I'm looking for more. So whether it's questions, comments, Moto Showcase bikes, or anything you want to talk about, inbox me, and we'll get them on the show. As always, I want to thank our sponsors, Motion Pro, Vinco, Racer X Magazine, Preston Petty Products, Sunrise Vapor Blasting, Golan Industries, Full Circle Racing, and Northwest Mako CZ. The Next Time Tried This segment is brought to you by Vinco. Keep the ride going. Tonight, I want to talk to you about chasers. Threads, taps, chasers. where you should use them on your bike when it comes to either internal threads or on a bolt. Let's get a closer look, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about. To begin with, let's get a look at what a rethreading set looks like. And it looks just like this. This is a 42-piece set, and it comes in National Coarse and National Fine, which is on this side. And for our application, or most of us here watching the show, we would be interested more in the metric side. These taps and dies, or chasers actually, they're not taps or dies, they come from 6mm up to 12mm in this set. But let's get a closer look and I can show you the difference between what I'm talking about between a chaser and a die or a tap. Now, on the right here is a tap. You could see that the teeth look pretty aggressive. This is used when cutting threads in a new piece of steel or aluminum. This is your chaser. You can see it looks a lot less aggressive, although it does have some grooves cut in it just like that, and that is what's going to clean up the internal threads or external threads if it's on a bolt when you go to clean up a piece that may be damaged, maybe like this 10mm shock bolt here. It's got a couple little grooves on it, little scratches on it, and you want to clean those up. So you would take your chaser like this, and whether you have it in a wrench or you have it wherever you need it, you're going to run that over it, and it's going to clean out all the grooves that are in the bolt and all the high spots and make that thread nice and sharp again on that bolt. If you were to use a die like this and go over this bolt, it's going to cut deeper, and the nut that you go to put on there, or if you go to thread it into the frame of your bike, it's not going to fit the same. It's going to be a little loose when you put it in the hole, or it's going to be too small when you go to put your bolt on there. So that's why you want to chase it. You don't want to tap it, okay? Now, let's go over to the frame and I'll show you where else this can apply to. Looking on this side of the shock mount, you could see where the frame did have a rubber plug put into the shock bolt. But if you go to this side, you'll see where you could see some rust inside that bolt hole from the other side. I'm going to show you how you can remedy that right now. The hole is right here, and if we go to take our 10mm bolt and go to put it in there, it goes in just a couple of threads, but because of the rust, it starts to tighten up, and it's not that easy to get in. So what I like to do is take a little lubricant like this, spray it in that hole, then take my chaser, which I showed you a little bit earlier, looks just like this, and begin to start it in that hole. And then as it gets a little bit tighter, if I have to, I put a wrench on it and give it a couple of turns, go back and forth, and it's going to clean up that thread without doing any further damage to it. It's going to take the rust out. It's going to take off any scaling that might be in there. It's going to take off any paint or anything that may have gotten in that thread when the frame was being refinished. I can now take the bolt that I have, and I'm doing it from this side just for this application so you can see it a lot better. And you can see that just with my fingers, I'm able to tighten that bolt just about all the way through. So remember, you don't want to use a tap. You want to use a chaser when the thread is good, but just has some scaling in it or maybe has some rust. Use a chaser, don't use a tap. The Next Time Try This segment is brought to you by Vinco. Keep the ride going. Oh, this thing fits beautiful now. This segment, of course, is sponsored by Vinco. Vinco, this week's special is for the Yamaha 82 through 87 YZ, the IT250, the 83 IT490, the 83, 84 YZ490, and the 82 through 94 YZ. It is a clutch kit, just $99.95, available from Vinco. It's got 6 steel plates, 7 friction plates, 6 springs, and the clutch cork friction plates are infused with aluminum particles designed to ensure smooth power delivery and fade-free performance. That's available this week from Vinco, $99.95. Vinco, keep the ride going. In the Moto Showcase tonight, which is brought to you by Preston Petty Products, we have a very, very special video sent to us by Mark Hildebrand. It's a very unusual bike, and I would like everybody to pay attention to this video because this is what I'm really looking for the show. If you want to have a bike in the Moto Showcase, take a look at this video, and you'd want to do something like this. I'm going to pop it in and get ready to go.
Hey everybody, this is Mark Hildebrand from Nightmare Racing, and this is my 1976 SR250 raced by Graham Smith over in Australia in the Mr. Motocross series. And I'd like to show you some different things on this bike that are different from the production bikes. So we'll start at the front hub here. Again, it's a magnesium backing plate and a billet actuator on the front. The hub actually is Nicosil lined instead of a steel liner. It's Nicosil plated, and that allows the hub to remain a lot cooler and the braking a lot more efficient. You can see the fork tubes are billet aluminum, very trick. And then Kawasaki used this hard plastic protector for the forks. The triple clamp on it is a billet triple clamp on the bottom, and then on the top is a sand cast aluminum triple clamp. Again, the bolts you can see are drilled out. The frame is actually Healy arc welded by hand. It's a hand built frame and big billet engine mounts. This engine is very similar to the production bike, but it's not piston port cylinder, it's a reed valve cylinder. And also the engine doesn't have any serial numbers on it. If you look at the brake pad or the brake pedal's kind of cobby, but that's kind of what I like about the works bikes, is that they're kind of handmade. Everything's handmade and custom built. On the swing arm, when you come back and look at the swing arm is actually a lot like a Mako swing arm in the back. You see that, just to keep the flex down on it. And then you can see the air box is made out of fiberglass, hand-laid fiberglass, pop riveted together. This one also has remote reservoir shocks on it. Reservoir mounts up here in front of the air box, and then the hose goes back. The seat is a fiberglass hand-laid seat on it. Fiberglass hand-laid tank, all to save weight. And this is my 1976 SR250 raced by Graham Smith in the Mr. Motocross series.
I want to thank Mark Hildebrand for sending in that amazing motorcycle. For doing so, I'm going to get you a nice coffee mug like this from Vintage Motocross Q&A and Preston Petty. Thank you, Mark Hildebrand. And again, if anybody was watching that video, that's what I'm looking for the Moto Showcase. Preston Petty Products. This week, their specialist front motor for just $54.95. $54.95. Get over to PrestonPetty.com. And here's the problem segment tonight. Let's take a look at some of your questions. Jordan? Mason Momola, where's a reliable place to buy chains and sprockets for a 1980 Honda CR250? I'm leery about buying from eBay sellers because of quality. Yeah, I can understand that, and many eBay sellers will put up a generic picture of sprockets and chains, and you don't always get what you're paying for. Mason, one guy I've dealt with for many, many years, very reliable, good guy, always picks up the phone, Dave Boydston at AMS, Arizona Motorcycle Salvage. Get a hold of Dave Boydston. He's a great guy to do business with, and gives you a lot of personal service too. You'll get what you're looking for at AMS. Jeff Christopher, would you discuss the difference between a tap and a thread chaser? This often pertains to the cleaning rust out of a bolt hole or a frame after painting. Jeff, when you asked me about that question, that prompted me to make the video this week that we just showed a few moments ago. So if you watch that, you'll know all about the difference between a chaser and a thread at this point. Jeff, thanks for watching the show and for the question. There you go. Picture of a chaser and a tap. Louis from New York, a stock 79 CR125 Honda has a chrome bore. I have a sleeved cylinder and a steel sleeve. Can the steel sleeve be re-chromed as it was found stock? I have a good supply of stock pistons and rings. This is a very interesting question, Louis. And in the picture, you'll see that stock, a 1979 CR125, you can see it there on the right, it's one piece. Okay, that aluminum cylinder does have a steel bore in it, but it's all one piece, or it's all one piece, and then it has chrome plating. Now, sometimes guys have either not handled their bike correctly, there's seizures, rings are breaking, things happen, and instead of getting them replated, they wind up going with a sleeve. Yes, you have a good supply of stock pistons and rings. That's probably why you want to go back to having a chrome bore. So, in answer to your question, can you Nickel or rechrome a steel sleeve? Absolutely. You can do it. I've had a bike that's had it, and whether it's Millennium or US Chrome, one of those companies will gladly do that for you, and it really, really works quite well. You still get great heat dissipation, and if you got a good supply of the stock pistons and rings, that's the way you want to go. You always have to be careful not to mix your chrome rings with chrome bores or cast iron rings with steel bores. It doesn't work that way. So yeah, chrome rings, cast iron bore, steel rings, chrome or nickel. Thanks for the question, Louis.
I'm Doug Grant. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'll be right back.
Hello everyone, Brandon here with Motion Pro, bringing you the Trick New Pro Plug sockets from Motion Pro. The Pro Plug sockets are a very clever design. They're heavy tool steel construction for durability. They feature a slim skeleton design for hard to reach heads and cylinders, and they feature a really trick, innovative retention system. This retention system is mechanical and it's not a rubber grommet, so you're never going to battle between the spark plug and the socket. So the socket is always going to be easy and firm to attach to the spark plug, but also it's going to be easy to remove. So you're not going to have to go fishing in those deep well heads to get that socket out. Now the socket features a couple of different drive components. You can use a 17 mil open end wrench, a 3/8 drive socket, as well as a through axle, right? So you've got a couple of different ways you can use this product. Now we have these available in 3 different sizes, and those 3 different sizes are 16, 18, and 21, available to fit most model motorcycles, V-twin as well as metric. Retail starts at $21.99 up to $22.99, available from your favorite retailer nationwide.
In the What's It Worth segment tonight, which is brought to you by Full Circle Racing, we'll be taking a look at a Suzuki TM400 in 1973. This is, of course, the segment of the show where we encourage you to comment what you think this bike recently sold for. I will tell you this, that it did sell in Indiana on July 17th, 2021. So here it is according to the description of the seller. This bike is quite original from what I remember owning one of these as a kid. I know it was purchased from me by the original owner. The grips, handlebars, and some fasteners are the only parts that I believe are aftermarket. The original owner explained that he took very, very good care of the bike. In his cosmetic restoration, he said the frame, fenders, and some of the motor parts were repainted, but the tank and the graphics were still original. The tank has a shallow dent on top. The tank is really nice. It's solid. It doesn't have a coating in it. The engine is on the original bore, has great compression. It runs really, really well. It still uses the factory oil injection system, so you don't have to mix the gas. The carbon air cleaner are original. The rubber boot is very soft and pliable. The Kickstarter is very sturdy, and it stays closed when the bike is running. The bike has a high quality, nicely installed new seat cover on the original foam. Chain and sprockets are new. Wheels are very nice. They run true. The bike came with a new set of front and rear tires when I bought it, and I will pass those along to the new buyer. The pipe is stock with no rust holes, but does have some shallow dents, and the rear and at the back has been repaired. The rear shocks are NOS Red Wing hammerheads. Even the rubber coated tips on the levers have no major damage. And this bike does appear to be quite original. I don't agree with the description of the bike being quite original when you talked about the frame and the engine being repainted, some of the hardware being replaced, the hammerhead Red Wing shocks, and a couple of other things I see. So I'm not so sure about that, but this is, of course, the portion of the show where you guess what this bike sold for. Do you think it sold for $3,500? $55,000? $6,000 because you think it's that original? I didn't think it was that original, and the bike sold for $4,950. I thought that was a bit much for a 73 TM400. Yeah, it does look relatively original with the exception of the shocks in that picture, but the buyers seem to be forthcoming about the things that were not original about it, and that disturbed me a little bit. $49.50, almost $5,000, 1973 Suzuki TM400. Full Circle Racing still running a great special up there. Tom McAllister will refinish your hubs. He'll powder coat them, of course, bead blast them first, remove the bearings, replace them if you need be, and he'll do the backing plate too. $50 per hub, $10 more for the backing plate, and if you want a custom color, he'll do that too. Right now, it's $50 or $60, including the backing plate, for your satin black or matte finish. Get a hold of Tom McAllister if you're looking for spokes and rims, building a whole set of wheels. Tom McAllister. Full Circle Racing. Have you ever heard of, this brought to you by Sunrise Vapor Blasting. Got a real interesting bike for you this week. Have you ever heard of a Galbucera? Galbucera motorcycles were built by Plinio Galbucera in Brescia, Italy from the mid-1930s until the mid-1950s. His most notable motorcycle was a two-stroke V8 from 1938, which did really not progress past prototype. Post-war production consisted of some three-wheel bikes and some smaller bikes using Villiers engines and Sachs engines from 175cc to 500cc. Plinio Galbucera, very interesting character. In the late 1930s, he was joined by a rider and an expert mechanic, Adolfo Toio of Trieste, Italy, in an unusual Egyptian-born character who is often credited in the annals of motorcycle history with the introductory to Italy to speedway racing, which is something that he saw in its early forms in New South Wales, Australia. At the 1938 Milan show, two exceptional machines from Galbucera appeared, a 249cc V4 stroke and a supercharged two-stroke V8 of 498 cc's, created using a pair of counter-rotating 250 V4 blocks bolted to each end of a gearbox. An incredible contraption for sure. Plinio in his early speedway years was the only manufacturer of speedway bikes in Italy. The Galbucera factory was destroyed, unfortunately, during World War II when it was bombed, and the engine and motorcycles where everything was based had been destroyed. When hostilities ceased in 1945, Galbucera resumed business and fitted Sachs engines into the bikes and only went as big as 125 and 175cc. Marama Toyo died May 30th, 1946, while racing at the Montebello Hippodrome. In 1955, financial woes came upon the Galbucera factory, and that, as they say in Italian, was tutti finiti. Everything was finished for Galbucera in 1955. Look at that, a V8. Two-stroke, unbelievable. Galbucera. Oh, Sunrise Vapor Blasting. I can't say enough good things about Mark Ferriester and Sunrise Vapor Blasting. We've sent them a lot of carburetors and other parts over the past few months. I know a lot of our viewers have been sending stuff as well. So whether it's a carburetor or any type of delicate metal for your car, boat, plane, whatever it might be, get it over to Mark Ferriester at Sunrise Vapor Blasting in Modesto. He will put it in that magical machine of his. It'll come back just absolutely perfectly without changing the profile. And if there are any loose fittings or small fittings on your piece, whatever it may be, you don't have to worry about it. Mark takes great care. They'll come back just like this carburetor does. Mark Ferriester, great job. And Sunrise Vapor Blasting, thank you for re-upping your sponsorship too, Mark. We really, really appreciate it. Now, we're going to take a commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to have the expansion chamber. We're going to have This Week in Motocross History and also some great announcements that you're not going to want to miss. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. We'll be right back after this message.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco, keep the ride going.
This Week in Motocross History is, of course, brought to you by Racer X Magazine, available on your newsstand and online now. This Week in Motocross History, 1972, Belgium wins by 9 seconds. Very, very interesting story. Listen to this. In one of the closest finishes ever, Belgium won the 1972 FIM Motocross the Nations in the Netherlands over Sweden, but only after officials had to add up the times for all 4 riders on each team to get the overall time for each team. The Belgians, Roger de Coster, Joe Robert, Jake van Velhoven, and Rene van der Vorst, combined times for the 2 motos were 5 hours, 14 minutes, and 12 seconds. The Swedish team of Aki Janssen, Ben Eberg, Christer Hammergren, and Bert Wallner were 5 hours, 14 minutes, 21 seconds. The individual overall winner with 2-1 moto scores was Suzuki's de Coster, with Mako's Johnson's second with a 3-2 finish. But just 9 seconds separated that, and it had to be really calculated carefully to see who the winner was between Belgium and Sweden. By the way, the United States team of Gary Jones, Brad Lackey, and Jim Pomeroy and Jimmy Weiner, they finished 7th on that day, and Lackey had the best individual finishes with an 8 and 13. In 1984, Glover and Ward go to Sweden. The last 250cc Trophy the Nation, the last one, was in 1984, and it took place in Varberg, Sweden, and Kawasaki's Jeff Ward was one of the all-time great Team USA efforts, going 1-1, just running away with it. Ward, who was the 84 AMA 125cc national champion, was trailed in both motos by his teammate Brock Glover, who was there racing as a replacement for the injured David Bailey. The Honda rider was part of a winning team the week before at the Motocross the Nations, but got injured. Now, Glover, who just happened to be in Europe for a Supercross race, and Team USA manager Roger de Coster tracked him down. Brock flew to Sweden and then followed Ward home in both motos. After finishing 3rd in the first time out for a Team USA podium sweep was Johnny O'Mara, and Yamaha's Ricky Johnson took a 7th. When the scores were added up and the 2 worst were dropped out, which happened to be O'Mara's 8th and Johnson's 9th, Team USA's score was 16, 3 times lower than the runner-up Sweden, who had 61. Interesting bit of history there with Brock Glover being there in Europe, Roger calling him in, and him really doing a great job right behind Jeff Ward in 1984. 1991, Stanton still standing in the Netherlands. Team Honda's Jeff Stanton anchors Team USA for the 3rd year in a row, and for the 3rd time, Team USA wins the Motocross the Nations, and that was the 11th straight year altogether. The race was held in the dark sand of Valkensvoorde in the Netherlands, and it was between Americans, Belgium, and the home Dutch team. Stanton had to come from behind in the last 2 motos after a couple of crashes to win the 500cc class, clawing back to make a winning pass with less than 2 laps to go. Kawasaki's Mike Kozrowski went 4-2 on the 125, and Yamaha's Damon Bradshaw went 2-5 in the 250 class. And America won the Nations again for the 11th year in a row. That was in 1991. The expansion chamber. We've got a great little segment here put on by Robert Oscar Pomeroy tonight, or Oscar Gayton as we know him. Let's see what we got from Oscar Gayton tonight in the expansion chamber.
Today I want to talk to you about a method to test all your electrical parts by building a simple tester out of spare parts. This method was shown to me by a friend of mine, Michael Greer, and I'd like to share it with you. Okay, what I've pulled out here are the 3 parts that you're going to need, either from spares, something you picked up in salvage. But basically, you just need a set of engine cases. They don't have to be good, perfect. They can be damaged. As long as they can, you can install the crank into the set of cases. That's all you need for the cases. Here I have a crank that the end bearings still spin. The rod is completely shot, which is fine because I'll show you later how we're going to trim this rod for our unit and a flywheel. Those 3 parts is all you need to build your tester. I'll try to give you a little better visual of what this looks like when it's all assembled. I installed a crank in the set of cases. I trimmed that connecting rod. You can see it right here. I've trimmed it and shaved it down. And the reason is because once I go to use this as a test unit, I want to be able to spin the crank and just spin freely without hanging up. The connecting rod won't hang up anywhere in the system. I have installed my flywheel and the pinion drive gear nut on the opposite side, so I know I can spin that crank cleanly. I wanted to mount my coil, so I mounted the coil on a piece of 2-inch by 1/4-inch flat bar, installed my coil. And here, I could have used a cylinder head and mounted the spark plug for this apparatus, but for visually, this was just as simple to me to mount this 2-inch, 3-inch by 2-inch, 1/2-inch to say 3/4-inch thick aluminum block, and I drilled and tapped an M14 by 1.25 hole in it to install my spark plug and connect my coil wire to it. I put together a list of a couple of tools you'll need. One very important part is this ratcheting adapter. You can buy these on Amazon for $15.58 was the current price that you checked on it. It's called the Performance Tool, and there's a part number W32137. And what it does is when we're gonna be spinning this crank to check see if we have spark. And when you attach this to your drill, the good news is when you're spinning the crank, and you can see as the crank builds momentum, it's not going to twist the drill in your hand and rip it out of your hand. So it's the most important safety tool is to have this. It's only $15.58 from Amazon. There's the tap. I checked with the tap M14 by 1.25 is only $11.88 on Amazon, and the drill to drill that hole in your block is only $11.99. So for about $30 worth of tools and some spare parts, if you're going to build this tester, and this is just the material for the base and this bracket, and I'll show you how this all works. Okay, one important thing to do, make sure you do, is mark the direction. I've checked, I kick my bike over, but most motors are going to be clockwise. Make sure when you're rotating it, you're rotating it clockwise. Make sure your ratchet adapter is set to spin but freewheel when you spin it clockwise. And what we're going to do, and I hope I can get this on video. If not, I'll turn the light out and get a little spark. I'm going to rotate the crank. I've got my stator installed, my coil installed, my wire, everything. And I'm going to put this ratchet on, and I'm going to check it. And here's the test here, and see if I can't get this this in view for you. And you can see there's plenty of spark there. Now, one of the good things about this that I didn't mention, yeah, you can check. Here's the kill switch. You can mount a kill switch, check your kill switch out. If you have a lighting system, I'm sure you can mount your lights, brackets, signals, whatever, and test out that your generator is making power, alternator, sorry, is making power. So there's many little options you can add to this little setup. But for me, for my specific use, I just needed to check the coil and stators on my parts. So try that.
I want to thank Oscar Gayton for sending in that video. Great job there. Some really, really useful information too, and very creative. In the announcements tonight, which is brought to you by Glen Industries. Glen Industries, you've heard me talk about them for weeks now. They make this great little filter. Comes in blue, orange, red, and silver. It's made of billet. It will cut down up to 10 microns of debris in your fuel. A couple of bucks more, but certainly worth it. And it's the last filter you're ever going to buy. You can clean them indefinitely. They're also looking for distributors, so be sure to email them at golenpro@yahoo.com. That's golenpro@yahoo.com. Vintage Motocross Radio coming soon. I've been speaking to Rick Simon, super hunky. You know him from Dirt Bike Magazine. Of course, the author of this great book that I bet you everyone watching this show has, Monkey Butt. I have been going back and forth with Rick. We are trying to organize a time where I can get him on the show. It doesn't look like it will be this weekend, but if it is, I will be announcing it on my personal page, on the Q&A page, of course, on Vintage Motocross Radio as well. So stay tuned. We do have Rick Simon coming up in the near future. Something else I want to mention. I spoke to a guy this week that's helping out a buddy of mine with transporting some bikes. His name is David Russell, DNR Bike Transport. And because he helped out a friend of mine, I said I would give him a plug on the show. Right now, he does have a run coming up between Seattle and the Midwest, Chicago, Detroit area especially. So he will be out there around October 1st. He has room for some bikes going out, and he will be bringing or have room for 3 or 4 bikes coming back from Detroit, Chicago, back to the Seattle area. So get a hold of David Russell. There's his number on the screen. And if you don't catch it in time, you can always send me a message and I'll get it to you. DR Bike Transport, David Russell. He will be a sponsor with us in the near future. Thanks, Dave. Vintage Motocross Q&A. I spoke to my friend Ken Smith a couple of weeks ago, and he says he wants to give away a couple of subscriptions to Vintage Motocross Magazine. Great magazine. There really isn't anything quite like it. The quality is second to none. So stay tuned in the coming weeks. Once I get it squared away with Ken Smith, I'll let you know about how you're going to win a year subscription to VMX magazine. Oh, there's a motocross and vintage trials coming up at Rattler's Run. That is on September 18th and 19th. It's put on by Cycle Gear. It is an AHRMA event. Go to the AHRMA website to learn more about that. Vintage motocross and trials, Rattler's Run. American Retrocross, always putting on a great race down there on the REM track at Glen, Helen. They've got another one coming up on Sunday, September 12th. Oh, I'm sorry, that was that was 4 days ago. Sorry, but I'm sure they'll have another race coming up in the very near future. Return of the Coupe Classic, October 9th and 10th. That is at AHRMA Racing. That is up in Marysville. Jordan and I went to this last year or the year before. I think we went both years, actually. Anyway, October 9th and 10th coming up, just a few weeks away. Get up there for the Coupe Classic. Oh, yeah, the NorCal reunion. This is happening on Saturday, October 16th. I do believe the dinners are sold out. The golf is sold out, but you still can show a bike there if you want. If you want to display a nice vintage motocross bike there, pre-75 preferred, get a hold of me and I will let the powers that be know there that you want to display a bike. But it's going to be a great day. Brad Lackey's going to be there. Tom Rapp, the Baileys are going to be there. I think both David and Gary, Larry Wosick, and a couple of other guys to be named. Steve Simons is going to be there. The Fox brothers. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's for a worthy cause. The Road to Recovery, helping out a lot of injured riders. That's it. Coming up, October 16th, the NorCal reunion. You heard me talk about this for months now, and it's almost here. Field of Dreams. That'll be October 15th and 16th. There's going to be a race. There's going to be a cross country. There is going to be a barbecue. There's going to be dancing girls in a beer tent. You got to get down there to the Field of Dreams. American Classic Racing and AHRMA are helping out with that event. Scott Burnworth, the Burner, SoCal Vintage MX Classic, coming up on October 16th with the second running of the Marty Smith Memorial Cup. Always a lot of great swag from Scott Burnworth, and we appreciate him mentioning our name on his flyer, on his brochure, on his website, and everything he does for vintage motocross is always appreciated. Scott and Debbie Burnworth, thank you so much. Oktoberfest, that is also at Glen Helen. Tammy Greenhill putting on another great event. Oktoberfest, that is the Old School Scrambles reunion group, and Old School Scrambles racing group, rather. And it's also combined with AHRMA Kids Always Race for Free, thanks to Rod Lake Racing. That's coming up in Glen Helen, October 31st. The finish line is brought to you by Northwest Mako CZ. This week from Northwest Mako CZ. What is their special, Jordan? Oh, they got brakes for your Mako, just $52. Get that Mako to stop on a dime with some new brake shoes from Northwest Mako CZ and Alan Brown, $52. Vintage Motocross Q&A t-shirts and hoodies are still available, just $19.99. With the cool weather coming, it might be a great time for a hoodie. They come in gray, they come in white, they get the logo on the front and our logo across the back as well. Get them while they last. Sponsorship opportunities still available. That's where I spoke to David Russell, the gentleman who will be doing some shipping for some people that I know, and he's going to be having some really great deals going on for the people who watch Vintage Motocross Q&A. So stay tuned. I will have a sponsorship opportunity. Well, I had a sponsorship opportunity available for him. I did give it to him. We're going to work out the details on that. As I mentioned earlier in the show, Mark Farriester just re-upped his sponsorship renewal. So he's seeing some results from that as well, Golan Products and everybody else. So if you want to be a sponsor on the show, it's a great way to reach up to 20,000 people a week. Some weeks we do even more. Last month, we hit almost 95,000 people. So get a hold of me, inbox me. I will get you a sponsorship proposal package. You could be on the show too. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching the show tonight. Please stay tuned to Vintage Motocross Radio. I'll let you know about the Rick Simon interview. But that wraps it up tonight here for me, Joe Abadi at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Thank you, Jordan, Chelsea, and Susie. Thank you, the viewers at home. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. And tomorrow, Thursday, on the page, look for the winner of the random share giveaway who will get this nice sticker sheet, compliments of Vintco. Have a good night, everybody.